After animating people, no lines connecting everywhere, and lots of illustrations, it's time to wrap things up. And in the final stretch, there's one more thing to do to add the text. Let's go over getting the text from Photoshop into the final animation. In the animation, a placeholder PNG was used for positioning of these animations, and each one of these animations created using lines, and then positioned out here. I'm going to throw away this layer. That was the one that was used for positioning of this artwork within the composition. This is the Photoshop file. Go open it up. The only thing that's needed from here are the text layers. Everything else can be removed. The text layers have an effect on it, and you want that effect, which is color overlay, to come into After Effects, and not only to be within After Effects, but you also want to be able to edit that effect. Right now, I'm just cleaning up the files. The backgrounds were created using shape objects. This way, besides being easy to recolorize in case that's needed, the shape objects take up far less space in the file. Just save the file. To get it into After Effects, all that has to be done is save the Photoshop file. Pulling at Text, Layers. In After Effects, import that Photoshop file. Want it to be a composition, and a composition that retains its layer sizes. Selecting Editable Layer Styles. And by doing so, you don't have to jump back to Photoshop every time you need to adjust one of the layer effects. This option allows those effects to be editable within After Effects. Clicking on OK. Here's the composition with all the text layers in position, and each of those layers. To use this in the main composition, drag the Photoshop composition behind all the artwork, and now you have text. But one last thing, that text has to be animated. You could go for a very simple fastbox blur on it to animate the text coming in. You could use a different technique. Each piece of text can be animated in line by line, just like the graphics, but that will take a little while. So the alternative is to go find an effect that might work out, and you have to go experiment. Maybe it's some type of wipe to get things on, and the wipe I went with was the grid wipe. Apply the grid wipe to the text layer, and grid wipe would work out. Just a lot of extra stuff. This is one of the effects that have multiple effects building it up. I want something a little simpler to manage. I'm going to remove this effect by removing all the effects applied to it. And scrolling on down a little further, I'm going to use the CC Grid Wipe. Instead of being a compound effect, this one is a lot simpler to use. Going to the completion, creating a keyframe, moving forward in time around here, dragging completion back down to 0. Since it's usually to wipe off, here I want it to wipe on things. The size of the grid can be animated and adjusted, and experiment to try to find the one that matches your art animation style without burning away lots of time animating each letter.